If you're an older man who still takes care of himself privately, I need you to listen very closely, because what I'm about to reveal is something almost no doctor, no magazine, and no late-night TV ad will ever tell you. In fact, it may be the single hidden reason your erections aren't as strong, your drive isn't as sharp, and your confidence sometimes slips, even if you think you're still doing fine. And here's the shocking part. It's not because you're touching yourself. It's because of the way you've been doing it for years without realizing the quiet damage it's causing. My name is Dr. Sophia Jain, and after 2 decades of helping men over 60 reignite their energy and intimacy, I can promise you this. What you'll hear today will completely change how you think about your private habits, your health, and even your future. By the end of this video, you'll discover the 10 hidden risks that no one ever explains, and more importantly, how to turn this so-called problem into one of the most powerful tools you have for restoring blood flow, testosterone, and performance without pills or prescriptions. And at the very end, I'll also share the natural 7-second technique I give my patients to help restore firmness and drive safely, powerfully, and without prescriptions. So don't miss a second, because once you understand this, you'll never see your body the same way again. Most men believe masturbation is either good or bad, black or white. But the truth is more complex and far more important than you think, because while self-pleasure can support your health, it can also slowly chip away at your performance, your hormones, your circulation, and even your connection to others if done the wrong way. In this video, I'll walk you through the 10 hidden risks of masturbation after 60 that most doctors never explain, and how to turn this private habit into a tool that actually protects your prostate, improves blood flow, strengthens testosterone, and enhances intimacy. And before we finish, I'll also share the natural 7-second technique I give my patients to help restore firmness and drive, safely, powerfully, and without prescriptions. Let's begin, because your health and your confidence deserve the truth. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and tap that button and turn on the bell so you never miss important health insights made specifically for men in their 60s and beyond. And if this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. I value your feedback, and it helps me create content that truly serves you. Now let's talk about the part most men never see coming, because the danger isn't just physical. It starts much deeper. The first hidden risk of masturbation after 60 is one I've seen silently erode the emotional well-being of countless men, and yet no one warns you about it. It's not about your body. It's about your connection to the world around you. Risk number 1, social isolation. I remember sitting across from a patient of mine, a retired high school teacher, 67 years old. He had that quiet look in his eyes, the kind of heaviness that doesn't come from age, but from being unseen. After a few minutes of small talk, he leaned in and said, "Doc, I haven't touched another person in months, but I still take care of things on my own. Is that bad?" That question stuck with me, not because of the act itself. There's nothing inherently wrong with self-pleasure. In fact, when it's done with intention and balance, it can be a healthy part of a man's sexual life. The problem is, what happens when it becomes a replacement for intimacy rather than a support for it? Many men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s find themselves drifting into quiet routines. A solo release becomes a comfort, a habit, a way to feel something, even for just a moment. And slowly, without realizing it, they stop seeking connection with others emotionally, romantically, even socially. Masturbation fills the gap until the gap becomes a canyon. It's not just about sex. It's about the subtle, painful withdrawal from life, from hugs, from laughter, from eye contact, from feeling seen as a man, not just a patient or a pensioner. I've seen men lose the desire to date, to touch, to engage, simply because solo pleasure became easier than facing the vulnerability of real connection. And here's the truth that few will say out loud. Physical touch is more than pleasure. It's medicine. It's what keeps your emotional circuits firing, your testosterone engaged, and your sense of worth alive. When you stop reaching out, your world starts shrinking. Not because you're getting older, but because you've stopped believing anyone wants what you still have to give. So, if you've noticed yourself turning inward more and more, if your private life has become your only source of connection, that's not a failure. It's a signal, a reminder that you're wired for more, and that more is still possible no matter how long it's been. Reclaiming that connection doesn't have to mean jumping back into dating or chasing romance. Sometimes it starts with something as small as calling an old friend, joining a local group, or striking up a conversation with someone new. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's being seen, being heard, being human again. Because the moment we stop believing we deserve closeness is the moment we start settling for isolation disguised as independence. And while emotional distance is one hidden danger, the next one hits closer to the body itself. Something most men don't even realize they're damaging until it's too late. Let me show you what it is and how to avoid it. Risk number 2, microlesions. Not long ago, a patient in his early 70s came to see me with a concern that he felt embarrassed to even mention. He said, "Doc, I've noticed irritation down there after and it's been happening more often lately." I could tell by his voice he was genuinely worried, but also a bit ashamed, like this was something he should have grown out of by now. Here's the truth. The skin of the penis, especially as we age, becomes thinner, more delicate, and slower to heal. The body loses some of the collagen and elasticity it once had in youth. Combine that with decades of friction, and it's no surprise that many older men develop what we call microlesions, tiny tears or abrasions in the skin that can happen during masturbation, especially when done too aggressively or without proper lubrication. Most men don't even notice it at first. A little redness, a mild sting afterward, maybe a slight sensitivity for a few hours. But over time, these repeated micro-injuries can cause inflammation, irritation, and even scarring.
They can make sensitivity worse, not better. And in some cases, they open the door to infections, bacterial or even fungal, that thrive in warm, moist environments. The worst part? Many men think the discomfort means something is wrong with them, with their hormones or their nerves, when really it's just their technique that needs adjusting. Masturbation isn't supposed to hurt, and if it does, it's not a sign you're broken. It's a sign your approach needs to evolve with your body. So, what can you do? First, be gentle. You're not 25 anymore, and that's not a weakness. It's a reason to treat your body with more care and respect. Second, always use a good quality water-based lubricant, not petroleum jelly, not spit. A proper lubricant reduces friction, prevents tearing, and actually helps preserve sensitivity over time. Third, slow down. You're not racing the clock. This is about connection, not completion. I often tell my patients this stage of life isn't about less pleasure. It's about better pleasure, wiser pleasure, the kind that respects the body and honors the years behind it. There's nothing shameful about adjusting how you touch yourself. In fact, there's power in it. You're learning to work with your body, not against it. And that's what real masculinity looks like at this age. Awareness, not avoidance. Now, if friction and irritation are warning signs you can feel, what about the dangers you can't? What if I told you there's a hidden risk that affects not your skin, but your brain? One that silently trains your body to stop responding to real-life intimacy altogether. That's what we're exploring next, and I promise it may just change the way you think about your entire approach to pleasure. Risk number 4, desensitization. He was 64, sharp-minded, healthy, still working part-time, and yet he sat in my office looking defeated. "Doc," he said, "I can't feel anything like I used to. I can get there on my own, but with my wife, it's different. I don't know what's wrong with me." I see this more often than you'd imagine. And it's not always about low testosterone or circulation. Sometimes it's about what I call the quiet conditioning of the nervous system. You see, when a man masturbates in the exact same way over and over, same grip, same rhythm, same pressure, same fantasy or screen, the brain and body begin to associate pleasure only with that specific pattern. It's like carving a deep trench into the ground. Every time you pour water, it follows the same path. After a while, it forgets how to flow anywhere else. In sexual terms, this is called desensitization. And for men over 60, it often shows up as difficulty feeling arousal with a partner, needing more intensity to get the same result, or struggling to climax without recreating a very specific solo environment. What once felt natural now feels like work, and that creates confusion, frustration, and even shame. But it's not a moral failure, it's not even a medical one. It's neurological conditioning. And the good news is it can be unlearned. Start by changing the way you touch yourself. Vary the speed. Change your grip. Explore different positions. Try engaging your imagination rather than relying on external stimulation every time. And most importantly, slow down. Don't rush toward release. Let yourself explore. When you create variety and stimulation, you reawaken sensitivity, not just in the body, but in the brain. And here's something I tell every patient who struggles with this. Your nervous system is not broken. It's just been overtrained in one direction. What it needs isn't shame. It needs patience, permission, and time to reset. I've watched men restore connection with their partners after years of numbness simply by practicing differently. They didn't need pills or procedures. They needed permission to explore themselves with curiosity, not urgency. This risk is subtle, and that's what makes it dangerous because you might not even realize it's happening until the distance between you and your partner feels too wide to cross. But the bridge can be rebuilt, and it starts by retraining how you respond to pleasure, both alone and with someone else. Now, if desensitization is something that changes how your body feels pleasure, the next risk is even more dangerous because it can hide something life-threatening. It's the one that most men overlook, and it often goes undetected until it's too late. Let's talk about it, because what you don't know here absolutely can happen. Risk number 4, masking erectile dysfunction. I once had a man in his late 60s come see me after putting it off for almost a year. He looked healthy, worked out 3 times a week, had been married for decades, but something was weighing on him. After some gentle conversation, he finally admitted, "Doc, I can get hard when I'm alone, Doc, but with my wife, it just doesn't happen, so I've stopped trying." That moment was heavy, not because he was broken, but because he didn't realize his body was sending him a warning. What he thought was a minor intimacy issue was actually the early signal of something much deeper. Possible vascular disease, blood sugar imbalance, or hormonal decline. Here's what most men don't know, and doctors don't always explain. The penis is like a barometer for your cardiovascular system. When blood flow slows, when arteries become less elastic, when hormone levels drop or nerve sensitivity fades, your ability to get and keep an erection with a partner is often the first thing to change. But because masturbation is usually easier mentally, emotionally, and physically, many men assume everything is fine. They're still functioning, just not there. But that assumption can be dangerous. Masturbation can sometimes bypass the deeper issues. It doesn't require the same psychological or physiological complexity. So while you're managing to stay aroused solo, you may be overlooking early-stage erectile dysfunction that could be signaling heart disease, diabetes, or declining testosterone, which are highly treatable when caught early. The truth is, I'd rather have a patient come to me with these concerns early than wait until something serious unfolds. Because when addressed in time, we can improve circulation, restore hormonal balance, and even reverse many of the causes of ED without aggressive medications or surgery. And here's something I want every man over 60 to hear. There's no shame in needing help. What's dangerous is waiting. What's risky is silence. If you notice a pattern, erections that are less firm, that don't last as long, that disappear with a partner but stay during solo time, that's not something to ignore. That's something to explore with a trusted physician who sees you as a whole person, not just a symptom. You deserve a full life, not a workaround. And masking the issue with solo habits only delays the healing you're fully capable of. Now, if this risk hides within your blood flow and hormones, the next risk comes from something even more surprising, something as simple as how you're sitting. And believe it or not, the position you're in could be quietly damaging a key nerve that affects pleasure, sensation, and long-term pelvic health. Let me show you how to avoid it. Risk number 5, nerve compression from poor posture. A few years ago, I met a man in his late 70s. He came in complaining of a dull, persistent numbness around his groin that had slowly gotten worse over the past 6 months. He thought it might be a circulation issue or maybe his age finally catching up to him. But after a full evaluation, I realized it wasn't vascular. It was neurological. The culprit, something deceptively simple: how he was sitting. What most men don't realize is that posture, especially during masturbation, plays a major role in nerve health. Many older men spend more time seated in recliners, office chairs, or hunched over in quiet privacy. And while that might seem harmless, the pressure from sitting on hard surfaces or in a slouched position can slowly compress the pudendal nerve, the nerve responsible for sensation in the penis, perineum, and surrounding pelvic floor. Over time, that compression can lead to numbness, tingling, loss of sensitivity, and even pain during or after sexual activity. It often starts subtly. Maybe you feel a little less responsive, or there's a strange buzzing sensation. But if left undressed, this can become chronic and harder to reverse.
It's frustrating because most men think the problem lies in their hormones or their desire, when in fact, it's simply a mechanical issue. But the good news is, once you understand it, it's easy to correct. The solution starts with awareness. Avoid masturbating while sitting on hard chairs or slouching forward. Instead, choose a reclined or lying down position where your spine and pelvis are supported. A pillow under your knees can take the pressure off your lower back and help open up the pelvic area. Also, take regular breaks from sitting throughout the day. Stand up, stretch, let the blood flow. Your nervous system needs movement just as much as your muscles do. I always tell my patients, comfort isn't a luxury, it's a form of protection. The way you position your body during private moments says a lot about how you're treating the long-term health. When you give your nerves room to breathe, you give your body permission to feel again. It may seem like a small thing, but these small habits add up. And when you feel numb where you used to feel alive, it's not just physical. It touches your sense of masculinity, your confidence, your connection to yourself. Now, while posture can quietly affect sensation, the next risk dives into something even more subtle, something many men turn to in moments of stress, loneliness, or boredom. It may seem harmless at first, even helpful, but over time, it can become a hidden emotional trap. Let's talk about what happens when masturbation stops being physical and starts becoming your only form of escape. Risk number 6, using it as your only emotional outlet. A man in his late 60s once sat across from me and said, almost in passing, "Some days I just get tired of feeling things. Masturbation helps me shut it off." He wasn't talking about lust. He was talking about loneliness, about stress, about boredom, about that dull ache in the chest that builds when no one calls, no one checks in, and the days all start to feel the same. And I understood him, because for many men over 60, especially those who are retired, widowed, or living alone, masturbation becomes more than physical. It becomes a kind of escape, a way to regulate emotions that feel too heavy to carry. You're not chasing pleasure, really. You're chasing relief. You're trying to quiet the noise. The truth is, self-pleasure can temporarily reduce stress by lowering cortisol levels. It creates a brief chemical cocktail of dopamine, oxytocin, and prolactin, hormones that make you feel calm, safe, and even loved. But when it becomes the only emotional outlet, it can slowly turn into a form of avoidance. Instead of facing the deeper feelings, sadness, grief, frustration, even restlessness, you numb them with sensation, and what starts as a coping mechanism can quietly become a dependency. You might not even realize it until you skip social outings, avoid phone calls, or lose interest in hobbies. all because it's easier to just stay home and feel that brief sense of control. I want to be clear, there is no shame in needing comfort. Every man, regardless of age, needs ways to deal with emotional stress. But if masturbation is the only lever you're pulling, it may be time to expand your emotional toolkit. Start with small steps. Talk to someone, a friend, a counselor, or even a support group. Move your body. Get outside. Create new routines that involve more than just solitude. Find new rhythms that help you feel alive, not just distracted. Because as good as orgasm might feel, it's no substitute for purpose, for conversation, for connection to something larger than yourself. You deserve a life that gives you more than momentary relief. You deserve emotional strength. And strength comes from range, the ability to feel fully and respond with choice, not habit. There's a deep masculinity in that kind of awareness. And while emotional escape can quietly drain your spirit, the next risk we're about to explore is one that can quietly weigh down your body. Literally. It's a physical ache that builds quietly over time, and many men don't recognize it until the discomfort becomes too hard to ignore. Let's talk about what it means when your body starts telling you it needs rest. Risk number 8, pelvic congestion. Not long ago, a man in his late 60s came to see me with a strange complaint. He said, "Doc, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but there's this dull, heavy ache down there. Not sharp, not unbearable, just constant pressure. It feels like something's off." He'd ruled out infection and his prostate exam came back clean, but when I asked about his habits, particularly how often he was ejaculating, his answer gave me all I needed to know. After retiring, he said, his days got quieter, more time at home, less structure, and to cope with boredom and stress, he found himself turning to masturbation. Not once in a while, but 2, sometimes 3 times a day.
"It helps me sleep," he told me. "It gives me something to do, but lately I just don't feel right." What he was experiencing is something we call pelvic congestion, a buildup of blood and pressure in the pelvic region due to repeated, frequent stimulation without adequate recovery time. When ejaculation happens too often, especially over an extended period, the tissues and blood vessels in the pelvic floor can become irritated and inflamed. You might feel a heaviness in your testicles, a deep ache behind the pubic bone, or even an unexplained soreness that lingers. This isn't about morality, it's about balance. Your body, especially as it ages, needs recovery time. The systems that regulate blood flow, hormone release, and muscular contractions are more delicate now than they were at 25. That doesn't mean you're fragile, it means you're wiser. And that wisdom gives you the chance to listen more closely. If you're experiencing that dull pelvic heaviness, or even a sense of fatigue or tension after frequent masturbation, it's your body's way of asking for space, for rhythm, for moderation. Most men over 60 do best with a few days between sessions, not because more is wrong, but because recovery is just as important as activity. And remember, more isn't always better. Pleasure doesn't increase with repetition. In fact, when you give your body time to reset, sensations often return stronger, more vibrant, and more fulfilling. You don't have to live with that dull ache. You don't have to push through discomfort or ignore your body's quiet signals. Sometimes just a little change in timing makes a big difference in how you feel physically, emotionally, and sexually. Now, while pelvic congestion is a signal your body sends from below, the next risk we'll explore starts on a cellular level, and it matters most if you're still considering fatherhood. Because yes, even in your 60s and 70s, it's possible, but you'll want to hear how this next habit could quietly be working against your chances. Risk number 9, potential impact on semen quality. He was 61, newly remarried, and full of quiet excitement when he walked into my office. "My wife and I have been trying for a baby," he told me. "She's younger and we're hopeful, but it's been 6 months now and nothing." He wasn't panicked, not yet, but I could feel the weight of his hope and the pressure to meet it. After reviewing his labs and lifestyle, everything looked fairly solid. Good hormone levels, no major health red flags. But when I asked about his ejaculation habits, he paused. "Pretty often," he said. "Every day, sometimes more. It helps me relax, and I figured the more the better, right? That's a common belief, but when it comes to fertility, it's not quite that simple. See, while frequent ejaculation isn't harmful to most men, it can temporarily reduce semen quality, particularly sperm concentration. That means that even though your body is producing sperm, it may not be giving each sample enough time to replenish at optimal levels. Especially for men in their 60s and beyond, when natural sperm production is already slowing down a bit, this can matter more than most people realize. Now, this isn't to say that daily ejaculation will destroy your fertility. Not at all. But if you and your partner are actively trying to conceive, timing matters, quality matters, and surprisingly, moderation can actually improve your odds. Research has shown that an abstinence period of 2 to 5 days before attempting conception tends to result in the highest sperm concentration and motility. It's about giving your body time to restore its resources and deliver what's needed when the moment is right. And this is where awareness becomes power. Many older men are still fully capable of fathering children, and many do, but it requires understanding how the body functions now, not how it functioned at 25. Fertility isn't just about desire, it's about biology, timing, and being intentional with your habits. So if creating life is still something on your heart, or even just a possibility you want to preserve, then consider adjusting your routine. You don't need to abstain forever. Just give your body time to prepare, to rebuild, to deliver what's needed when the moment is right. And remember, your ability to create life isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's energetic. It's a symbol of the vitality still alive in you. Now, while this risk only applies to a specific goal, fatherhood, the final risk is one that affects nearly every man, whether you're trying to conceive or not. It doesn't show up in your body right away. It starts in your brain. And if you're not careful, it can change the way you see women, yourself, and the very meaning of intimacy. Let's talk about it. Risk number 10, disconnection from reality. I once spoke with a man in his early 70s who shared something with remarkable honesty. "It's not that I don't want intimacy with a partner," he said. "It's that real life just doesn't do it for me anymore. I don't know when it happened, I just stopped feeling excited by actual connection." That moment stayed with me because what he was describing wasn't erectile dysfunction. It wasn't low testosterone. It was something more subtle and in many ways more damaging. He had unknowingly trained his brain to respond only to fantasy, to the curated intensity of pornography, and over time, real life, touch, scent, voice, emotion, it just couldn't compete. You see, the human brain, especially the male brain, is incredibly responsive to novelty and stimulation. When exposed repeatedly to highly arousing, highly unrealistic content, the brain starts to adjust its reward system. It craves the extreme, the dramatic, the impossible, and slowly it stops responding to the natural, to the gentle pace of true human connection. For men over 60, this risk is especially real because as life slows down and loneliness sets in, the temptation to escape into a digital world can grow stronger. There's no judgment in that, only understanding. Screens don't reject. They don't require vulnerability. They give you a predictable dose of stimulation. But what they often take without you noticing is your sensitivity, your presence, and your ability to be deeply moved by something real. What begins as simple visual aid can evolve into a dependence that makes it hard to connect, not just sexually, but emotionally. You may find yourself bored in real-life moments that used to bring joy. You may start comparing partners, even subconsciously, to images that were never real to begin with. But here's the good news. This kind of disconnection is reversible. Your brain is plastic, which means it can change. You can retrain it. Start by taking breaks from artificial content. Replace it with memory, with imagination, with real human contact when possible. Read, reflect, let desire build without needing it to be satisfied instantly. Give yourself a chance to rediscover the slower, deeper layers of intimacy. You don't have to live trapped behind a screen. You're not too old to feel something real again. Sometimes the richest arousal comes not from what you see, but from what you remember, what you feel, what you hope to experience once more. And now that we've explored these hidden risks, physical, emotional, hormonal, neurological, there's one final piece we need to talk about, because knowing the risks is just half the story. What if there were a natural, simple way, just 7 seconds a day, to actually reverse much of the damage, restore blood flow, and reignite the vitality you thought you'd lost? That's exactly what I want to show you next. Conclusion. So now you know masturbation after 60 isn't good or bad. It's not black and white. It's a tool. And like any tool, how you use it determines whether it strengthens you or slowly wears you down. We've talked about 10 real risks, from social isolation and desensitization to nerve damage, guilt, pelvic congestion, even disconnection from reality. These aren't meant to scare you, they're meant to wake you up, to give you the awareness and permission to take better care of yourself. Because this stage of life isn't about giving things up, it's about doing them differently, with more intention, more care, and more wisdom. Your body still responds, your desire still matters, and with a few small shifts, your private habits can become a source of strength instead of shame. If this conversation spoke to you, then stay with me, because what I'm going to share next could be the key to reigniting everything you thought you lost. A simple, natural method I've given hundreds of men, one that just might change the way you feel tomorrow morning. Let's talk about it.